to catch fish and overfishing. That's why main things we do are to convert them to another job and reduce the number of fishermen. And now the number of fishermen reduction is very effective. So in some area, there's a mass migration of fishermen to cities. It's not clear if the job increase is coastal area in some areas is due to blue economy or not. But in many areas, we create jobs for blue because of blue economy. For example, in Cù Lao Chàm, Hội An, Cà Mau, and some other areas, we create job. For example, the ecotourism job. Everybody can participate and benefit from such work. And the poverty reduction. In fact, in the coastal area, the poverty rate is lower than other places. For example, in the north of Vietnam, the average poverty rate based on 2.9 monthly duration, but the income is 2.9 US dollar per day for one person. So the North Vietnam is coastal area provinces in North Vietnam is only 4.2%, and the central Vietnam about 10%. That is because in that area we have a mountain area also, because the coast is very narrow and province is mainly the mountain area. So the poverty rate is rather high, and in the south central only the flat area, coastal area, the poverty is 3.86 or about 4, and in the south, the education is not so good for such people. So the poverty is rather high, about 10%, and we have a good model for poverty eradication. We land the government. We have a bank to give loan to poor people through community. So community have to verify about the plan to use money for poverty eradication, and then community have the responsibility to monitor and to pressure the people to return money to the bank on time. So the outstanding debt for the bank of policy, social and policy bank, we call it, yes, is only 0.3%. You see, almost all poor people return the money on time, and the money is very, very effectively used for poverty eradication. And the living standards in many years, the blue economy increased living standards for people. In general, living standards of people in the coastal area of Vietnam increased a lot, but we think that only a part due to blue economy. But in some area like Hội An or Cù Lao Chàm and some other places or Cà Mau, the living standards of people is really related to blue economy because they share the benefit from the development of the coastal area. And social equity, democracy and women's empowerment is better and related really to blue economy. And we can say that even in the poor area, in the coastal area now, women, especially young women, can have the power as almost similar to men. So the equality for the poor, for the old generation is not so good, but for young people now is much better. And the ecosystem approach in economic development. So for this one, we must say that this one mainly policy. We have a lot of policy, but implementation is really difficult, and we just get very limited success. So our officials still do not understand very well about this one. Not only people, So the implementation is there's a lot of problem, and we are talking and train and education, but we need more time. And conservation had a limited success. In fact, we can have the conservation only about 0.7% of our territorial seas. So it's much lower than the IG biodiversity target, 10%, right? So very low. And the rational and efficient use of natural resources. In fact, this one will not achieve significant progress because we lack of marine spatial planning, and this one hinders the development. And for the protection of environment, and we have progress in municipal solid waste collection and processing, and no effective solid waste classification as such. The law, in our law and regulation, we have the classification of solid waste as source and transportation and processing and recycle, even 3R. And now we are talking about circular economy. But in reality, sometimes we have classification as source, but when collection and transportation is not so. So the efficiency is really low. And there's no special regulation on plastic production, trade, usage, and waste management. In fact, in Vietnam, some ministry, for example, Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, we do not use plastic bottle now, no plastic bottle, and limit the use of plastic bags. But the national policy, maybe in the near future, we shall have to ban the one-time use of plastic products. But at the moment, we still do not have a clear policy, national policy. Okay. And the marine plastic debris is a serious problem, and resilient to stressors. And we have a model for local response, for local command, local equipment, and local supply for natural and man-made hazards response. So that one is a success. But we have problem of damage due to coastal erosion and typhoon large. The first one is a lack of sediment supply to the coast due to dam, upstream dam. So the coastal erosion is a serious problem, and some people, government have a very serious response, but people do not migrate evacuate because of they do not understand the seriousness of typhoon. So sometimes the damage is large, and for other aspect, we have also limited success, and we can say that for the international cooperation, we have the cooperation from a country, especially in the maritime safety and security. We have problem of safety and security mainly due to the U-shaped line of China. Usually our fishermen are harassed and even captured by Chinese force in our EEZ. That one is our real problem because it lies with the U-shaped line. So we have some look at economic sector, but I don't have time to present this one. So there is a framework for blue economy development in Vietnam, and the framework is rather good now. But understanding of blue economy is still very limited, especially for local people. And result of blue economy development in Vietnam is still very limited. And international cooperation, especially in maritime safety and technology transfer, is very effective for blue economy development. And thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you, Dr. Wu. Very interesting presentation about Vietnam's experience in managing and developing blue economy. And I'll simply say that, again, while the system has been put in place, there are problems in implementation and the results are varied. I mean, that's important. And the lack of awareness and understanding at the level of officials and even other stakeholders. And that's why some of these problems that is mentioned are there. But you, of course, highlighted the fact that there is international cooperation very effective, except in the case of one country that you mentioned. How much time do we have for Q&A?
Almost now 4 o'clock.
Sorry? Wind up?
Yes. No, we can ask questions.
No, for how much time?
5 to 7.
5 to 7 minutes. Well, we have 5 to 7 minutes for Q&A session, and I very much invite participation from the audience because, I mean, as I can make out, you're all highly experienced and qualified people to actually contribute to discussion on this subject. Thank you. Yes, please. Yes, please. Please do introduce yourself and then ask a question or a comment.
So a question, or rather, an extension to whatever the panel has said. I'm Commander Agarwal from the National Maritime Foundation. The dragon, as has been introduced in the room, the question is
confine the subject.
Yes, sir. I wish to ask, can we look at an an ASEAN and India cooperation towards blue economy without involving China? Because ASEAN, being in the middle of India and China, wants to not to antagonize either of them.
I think we should, I just want to make this general point that we should be actually more input oriented because the takeaways from this session we reported to the ministerial level, and therefore we'd like to say things which actually are productive and constructive. Thank you. If there are no more questions, I hope there are some more questions because, yes, please. Yes, sir.
My question is to the distinguished panelists from Indonesia. I recall seeing in the map that most of the provision of this venture capital was in the island of Java and very little in Sumatra. So what are the plans of the Indonesian government to spread it all over the country, or are there any plans currently underway?
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Please go
Yeah.
ahead.
We plan to right now we plan to execute the program. It's more than 200 municipalities. Yeah, but if you see from the map, the number of municipalities in Java Island is many from the other regions. So maybe if you see from the map, there is a high concentration in Java. Yeah, but from this year, yeah, because there is a problem to the preparation of human resource in eastern Indonesia. So we need to prepare first, and that we making some trainings especially for the extension staff. So in this year, yeah, we need more of the we implement the program is weighted on the eastern Indonesia. Thank you, sir.
Any more comments, questions? If not, then maybe I can just wind up the session. First of all, I must say that it's been a very productive session, though we wish there were more inputs from the audience. As I said, they're highly qualified. One thing which come out very clearly is that the cooperation in the blue economy area is still at a very incipient stage. And as Professor Bhunti actually said, the methodological issue will still need to be sorted out, because without that, unless we have common definitions, unless we have harmonized data, we cannot develop the basis for cooperation as far as blue economy is concerned. And also the implementation is actually quite complicated, because as Dr. Wu pointed out, that even when you have a policy framework, an institutional framework. Its implementation on the ground is varied and patchy, depending upon the level, the quality of understanding of the issues to actually carry out, implement those policy programs. Also, we had an excellent input from Ambassador Panda. I should have mentioned that he's ambassador to Seychelles earlier, so he knows blue economy and these things very well. First, of course, it pointed out that the international cooperation actually is very effective in developing the resources, the potential blue economy, and also to meet the challenge of climate change, which actually is quite critical. As was pointed out by Dr. Mohanty, that perhaps it is even more threatening than what we call traditional challenges to our systems and to our structures, to our governance mechanisms. In terms of institutional collaboration, drawing upon the resources and the expertise of other institutions, sharing, exchanging best practices, and as I know for sure that ASEAN has some excellent programs and success stories. Some of these we can implement in India, and